Hi guys, it's been a long time since I've made a video. Um, a lot has happened. Um, Basically, I was put in like a psychiatric hospital and diagnosed with schizophrenia, and um, went off my diet for a while, gained a bunch of weight, basically a lot of negatives, but um, I'm here making this video today to just kind of explain a bit of my story, I guess. Um, so, in my previous videos, I was doing the carnivore diet, and some of the videos, not all of them, but I was down to about 160, 170. I mean, maybe as low as 150, but I have kind of I'll I don't know if it's really much of a sob story or anything, but it's just like I've I dealt with like a breakup and kind of I've kind of went crazy, I guess, or like since then not since then, but um I've been hearing like voices, and like it's been kind of a wild ride, I guess. um I have a history of doing psychedelics, and I've had over 100 trips, and I had enjoyed a lot of those experiences, and I kind of worship them. And um, I had a lot of, like, I would say, positive experiences, joyful, fun, difficult times, challenging, tough, but overall, I would say good. Um, but my trip started going south, and it's something that I don't really even want to talk about that much, but because it's something that I don't think people who do psychedelics and love them and all that, they they don't expect it. It could probably happen to anyone. uh, but um, it's kind of a cliche. Like, I heard it myself a lot, and I'm like, no, bad trips don't exist, or like they do, but they're just difficult. They're challenging. Psychedelics are a teacher. They're not for recreation. Or like, I wouldn't use them for recreation, though in part I would, but I would say they weren't really like, for me they weren't really for that. Like, I would sit there and like meditate and stuff like that, and just I would try to like talk to the psychedelics, kind of like Terrence McKenna. He's an influencer in the psychedelic community. He's long since passed away, but he he had this dare, which was a 5 grams of mushrooms in silent darkness. I've done, I would say, much more than 5 grams, but I don't know. I think everyone's different, and it can affect people differently. And like, I would do that kind of thing where he would say 5 grams of mushrooms in silent darkness, and I would take LSD in darkness. Not complete darkness, just my room would be dark. I might have like a light on or something, blue lights or black lights or whatever, Christmas lights, or just like dimly lit, sometimes dark. And I'd often close my eyes and just try to see, or like he would talk about how he would call forth like the mushroom sort of, or he would be like, show yourself, mushroom, or like not necessarily that, but he would say something along the lines of like calling. I can't even quote him exactly, but he would basically call for them, or like he would make it a point of his trip, like an intention almost, to like invite them. And I would do that too. And I would have experiences like that. But so that's probably where the voices originated, was in psychedelics. But there's something called HPPD, which is hallucination persistent perception disorder. And I think I have that, which is basically where the hallucinations carry with you outside of dosing, tripping, without taking psychedelics. A person could have visuals or hallucinations, and I think I get that. I've had pretty strong hallucinations actually. Really scary hallucinations too. It's like, I don't know. I was put in a psychiatric hospital 2 times, and my my mind just went like crazy with hallucinations both times. And it's something that I don't really talk to people about, or talk about with people, but I'm just making this video. I'm keeping my composure. I can keep my composure, but like I was like frozen basically with fear, and I had command hallucinations that were really strong, to the point where I didn't like, if any of you have seen the movie The Shining, this movie triggered me a lot actually. They talk about the shine, and I think I have something kind of like that, I guess, where I would be in the room with people, there would be psychologists or whatever in the room with me, and they'd be talking to me, but there would be like something else going on. And in The Shine, it basically is like he's looking at someone talk to. It's this little kid. He's watching his this kind of like a tour guide kind of person talk to his parents, and he's like looking at him from a distance, the tour guide. And as he's talking to his parents, it's like this kid has like this perception that he like turns his head and says something to the kid, like, "Do you like ice cream?" or something like that. And I wouldn't necessarily get people turning their heads and saying, like, speaking it, but I think in the movie it basically has like this ringing sound, and it's kind of like he tunes into this this voice or something, and it's basically like he can read his thoughts or something like that, and they have established this psychic connection or something. And I might regret making this video, but I've been dealing with like a breakup, I guess, and like that kind of triggered me to start doing that, to kind of like maybe think about what other people might be thinking of me. And I know that other people have had, at least have described similar, or like I was reading this YouTube comment of this guy who took mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, and he had this experience that he described where it was like he could hear everyone's negative thoughts about him, and he was afraid that it was going to go on forever. And he ended up saying that it was like really positive for him, like he learned something, or like when he came down from it, that he was like thankful or something. And I think I was having something like this, and I'm kind of withholding some stuff, but I had thoughts of people who wanted to. The first time I was in the hospital, I thought there was going to be like a mob of people that were going to come and kill me for like what I did, or like what I had like these journals that I've had, and I would just write whatever. I would just scribble my thoughts in them, and just like I was really into like death grips, or like metal music, kind of hip hop music, just Ron, I don't know how to explain it, just alternative stuff that was freaky. And I would like write a lot of freaky stuff in there, like just words that would connect or rhyme with each other, or like provide like an imagery. and it could be something like grotesque, but it would be like, I'm even kind of getting it now, because it's like what I intended was not what I thought people were getting out of it. Like, they're like, oh, you're just like a psycho, or like, that made me, I was having like these hallucinations of people barging into my room and reading my stuff when I was in the hospital the first time. And it was like, I was getting these psychic like reactions to like what they were reading. And I was like, I thought that there's like a whole mob of people, like someone killed themselves over reading what I wrote, and like someone was sick and like threw up, and just like all these wild reactions to what I thought were just like not that much different from like a Death Grips lyric or something like that. Just like, I just enjoyed writing that stuff, and it was fun to work with like wordplay or whatever, and it became like this serious thing. I guess like a regret. And like, I wanted to burn the books to like stop the mayhem, to like stop the spread up. And I was trying to get someone that I could call. Oh, like I was trying to call someone to get them to burn the books for me. And I'm like, did people break into my room? And I found out that they didn't. And that kind of blew my mind in a way, because I was like so like afraid, and just like, I literally thought that there was a mob on their way to come and get me when I was at the hospital. And that has happened a few times. But like, I found out that there's no people that broke into my room, because I lived in an apartment at the time, and this is just a long story, but I had my window open because I thought someone was out to kill me. And when I was going for a run, basically, I'm like, okay, someone's out to kill me, I'm just gonna go for a run, fuck it. And might as well, I guess. I'm somewhat of a runner, and at one point during that, I stopped. Okay, I'm a runner, and I've been researching into like barefoot running, and so when I thought this person was out to kill me, I just jumped out my window with my socks on, and it was just first floor. It wasn't like I jumped out of fucking, it was just like, I opened up my window. I punched the screen out because I had a series of premonitions, I guess, and I swore that that person knocked on my door, and it was in such a way that it was really creepy to me and startled the fuck out of me. Like, it was 3 little soft knocks, and like, it was just super creepy to me, and it just, I had a full adrenaline rush and fight or flight. Like, I just like, oh, like I basically had a dream that this person was gonna come and kill me. Like, and when I heard those knocks, it like affirmed my paranoia, I guess. And this is something I just kind of live with, I guess. And like having repetitive dreams of people killing me, I guess. Like, the same person, I could have a repetitive dream like 7 or 8 times, just in a battle with them or something. And anyways, when I had that dream and then heard that sound, it freaked me out. I opened up my window, I punched out the screen, and I jumped out with my socks on. And I ran out, and I was hallucinating. I was like hearing him in my mind, I guess, where it's like, he's like, "You better run, boy! You better run!" kind of thing. I don't know how to fucking explain it, but I'm not sure if I can, which is the difficult part about this. Anyways, I was running, I ran across like this road. I ran down to like this pond, this kind of hill with trees on it, woodsy hill with trees on it. I ran down there to like this pond. I kind of just sat there and waited for a bit, and then I eventually came back up, and I decided to just keep going. I ran a couple miles, probably like 3 or so. Then I just ended up walking. There's this guy I talked to. They're like, "Oh, you should put some shoes on. Let me find you some shoes." And he tried finding shoes in like this thing where it's like clothing donation or whatever. And I was, at that point, I was just like, "Nah, I don't." I'm gonna leave out some details of this story, I'm sorry, but my paranoia is just so crazy that I kind of have to. Anyways, I refuse to wear shoes, I guess. I wanted to just keep barefoot running, I guess, or walking, and to toughen my feet up, to get calluses on them so I could practice barefoot running, I guess. Because there's some people who barefoot run, and they do it as like a practice, and they get major calluses to where their feet are like, have like a thick layer of protection on them. And I read somewhere that someone has that thick calloused coating on their, or layer on their feet, to where they can just run on anything at that point. Like, they could step on glass and there'd be it wouldn't even cut them, or it wouldn't cut them that deep, I guess. I don't know. Um, I thought it would be cool to build my feet up. So anyways, I was just barefoot running and walking but it was on concrete. So my feet were getting blistered and bloody, kind of. And I kind of got tired at a certain point, so I stopped at like this church. This is before I ever was put in a psychiatric like hospital. I stopped at this church because I'm like, I just wanted to lay down and camp somewhere for a while before I felt safe to go home. And when I went somewhere, I found out that this church or whatever was closed. Like, I know that they have long seats that I could probably lay on and like maybe take a nap for an hour or something. But no. I went there for like a shelter, basically. And what happened was kind of the opposite in a way. I don't know. Whereas like I had this guy come up to me and I was just trying to tell him my story or whatever. And he's like, oh, I think I should call somebody and have them talk to you or whatever. We'll get you some help. And it's like this cop. And I was talking to this cop trying to explain to them. I'm like, yeah, I've done psychedelics in the past. And they're like, all right, they basically called for like backup at that point to get more people, more cops. And I wasn't on anything. The only thing I had was I smoked like half a joint the night before. And they're like, oh, maybe it's laced. They're like, have you done meth? And I'm like, no. Like, they asked me if I was basically on meth or something, and I was like, no. And whether or not they believed me is probably totally up to, their own judgment, I guess. They could have been like, oh, this guy is a total liar. He's just a junkie or a meth head. And they're probably sick of dealing with people, so they wanted me to go get checked out somewhere. They brought me to a psychiatric hospital, or like a kind of like a little center. And like, this is where I fell off of my diet, because they're like, oh, you're probably just having like anxiety or something from low insulin. Basically like saying that I need to eat some food or sugar to get my levels back up to normal. And they got a blood test, or they like, before they brought me anywhere, I was on a carnivore diet at this time, where I basically just only ate meat for the most part and drank water. And I was on that for a couple months, to where I was just telling them that I did a low carb diet, and they're like, oh, I don't know, they tested my sugars or whatever, and they're like, they thought that the levels were, they're like, they're normal, but you should just have this to be safe. And what they gave me was like this packet, or it was like a little, it kind of looked like a mini thing of toothpaste, but it was really just like glucose or something, some flavoring with like red 40 in it and shit. And like that was basically like they all like they surrounded me basically, and it was like they peer pressured me into just taking this. I could have said no, but I just wanted them to leave me alone. So I'm just like, okay, if I take this, maybe they'll leave me alone. I think a mistake I made was even talking to them. People say never talk to cops. And even though I didn't commit any crimes, they thought it was weird or something like unusual that I was running with no socks on, or like no shoes, because my feet were kind of banged up. And they just kind of, at that point, they really wanted me to go get checked out. They probably thought I was crazy or something. And I was like, okay, whatever, fine. Just like, I asked them many times if I could just go home. And they didn't want that, or they didn't want to let me just go, or they didn't want me to just go home, I guess. They wanted me to get checked out. So I went I got in the back of this cop. They put me in handcuffs. They put me in the back of a cop car and brought me to like this mental health place. It was kind of like people call it a loony bin. I don't know, but once I got there, my hallucinations just started going wild. Like they were telling me to scream, and I just went with it, because some part in me was like, okay, maybe these people don't get to see any action in their entire lives, or like in the sense of like they don't get to have exciting stories to like tell to their spouse or whatever, like nothing really interesting. But like there's just one guy in there, and he's just complaining in there, and it was just kind of boring, I guess. So I just started screaming that I was a crazy person, and I'm gonna leave out some details of this, but they could not tell the difference between someone just like faking it, or like I guess willfully doing it, and just doing it out of just like because they can't really help it or something. Basically, the difference between someone faking it and not. And so they gave me like a shot to like calm me down, I guess. And from there, I basically just like kind of slept or whatever. But they ended up bringing me to some place that was 2 hours away, over 100 miles. And at that place, I stayed there for like 10 or 11 days. But I was having wicked hallucinations there. Um, I kind of don't mean to actually make them seem like, I don't know, like brag or anything. I was actually incredibly scared. I was afraid that the bed was going to like suck me in and spew me out as blood on the ceiling, like in the movie Nightmare on Elm Street. And this kind of goes with like hallucinations of someone trying to kill me. I don't know, it just freaked me the fuck out. I couldn't even go in my room. I had to sit outside, kind of like with my arms sitting on the ground with my arms around my knees, just waiting, just kind of sitting there, afraid to just go back in that room. And like I had that go on for several days. I was sleep deprived. They put me on different drugs, like 3 different drugs at a time, and I wasn't taking them and I wasn't eating too at first, because I was on this really like clean or pure diet of just meat and water. Like, imagine a wolf. You get a wolf, and then you bring it in to a dog rescue place or something, and people start feeding it like cheeseburgers and like I don't know, like pasta and pills to like get it to calm down. And this kind of mess, it's kind of a mess of different things in their stomach. Definitely not like a natural food source, more like a man-made contriving, like mess, kind of like an industrialized diet or something, and like artificial. And probably the dog would change a lot. It'd probably calm down, but it'd probably get sick too at the same time. And it'd probably get unhealthy. Like, I wasn't eating at first there, so I think my weight went down to like 148, or it was probably more than that, but I got pretty damn skinny in there. But the thing is I started eating the food. I went off of my diet. So I went from skinny to like skinny fat. Like in a matter of like a few days of eating their food. Like, my stomach just started to blow. My energy levels actually dropped dramatically. and everything started getting hazy. And my hallucinations started going haywire. Like, on LSD, I'm not even sure I wouldn't do justice. I don't know, like, trying to explain what people experience on psychedelics is, I'm not sure I can do that. But it was basically like LSD visuals. Like, on LSD, I'd see kind of like a holographic moving image on top of wood grain, like wood. It would be like moving and flowing, and not the same image that the wood grain was, really. It would be wavy. And when I was in the hospital, I was getting these kind of visuals that were like similar in a way, but making up images of like symbols that were like demon faces. It's kind of hard to describe, but I felt like I was getting kind of like, I'm gonna disclose some, or not disclose some stuff here, but basically I was seeing some demon type shit, or demon imagery in the wood grain. And I was afraid of dying and shit. I was afraid for my life in there. I've never been more afraid. Like, I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, what I went through in there. But what I went through there is actually kind of foggy. Like, I can't really remember it that well now. I just remember being really fucking terrified. I can't even convey, like you might watch scary videos, like someone playing a scary video game, PewDiePie or something, or like, the best that comes closest to it is being really young and watching scary movies. I was so afraid in there that I walked into this room where it was kind of like a lounge area where people were watching an Avengers movie, and there's missiles going off in this fucking movie, like impact explosions and missiles. And I was so fucking out of it that I thought that they would like, even now, like, they would fucking just blow up, like, right next to me. And I kind of just get that sometimes. So I guess I'm like schizophrenic. But I kind of think of that as bullshit. I think only a few people can relate. And maybe even just in part. But the thing that kind of makes it worse is like how I was telling you guys how I thought people were out to fucking kill me. I had this guy confront me at the park not too long ago, maybe a few months ago. And this guy, I sold him some research chemicals, basically LSD, but it's not LSD, it's 1P-LSD. Something I was able to get legally online. And I gave it to someone and they had a negative reaction, like their heartbeat went up to 140 or something like that for a prolonged period of time. And like they basically had a bad trip. And I didn't really know of bad trips until like I gave him this knowing or not knowing what a bad trip really was. To where now I want to give people psychedelics. It's just too dangerous. It's too much. Some people, I thought I could just handle my own shit. But when shit gets like extreme, like really extreme, it's hard to explain that. So when people tried explaining that to me, I was just like, all right. I thought I would just breathe through it. I thought I had all my coping mechanisms just laid out. And those coping mechanisms can help maybe a majority of the time. But there's just these times where it feels like it's so like explosive or something. And it's hard to convey that to people. I'm not even sure I can convey it to people. Like maybe those people just have to find out on their own. Like the last time I ever did psychedelics, I thought I was gonna be taken to hell. And that's, maybe I was partially deserving of that or something, you know, to where not everyone is, I don't, you know. So it's especially fucking scary to and I really wasn't expecting it. I never expected going to a psychiatric hospital. I never expected having hallucinations so bad to where I can't work, really. So I don't have a job right now. Because if I work, I'm afraid that I'm going to start seeing blood and I won't be able to move. But anyways, I'm going to wrap up this video. I'm back on the carnivore diet. I'm trying to keep... I gained a lot of weight from that incident of taking that glycogen stuff and having hospital food. It took me many, many months to be able to get back on this carnivore diet. I've been on it for like 6 days or so, and I'm trying to just not eat, but because I'm like 200 pounds, I was like 160, but shit happened there. I don't know. I just went off it, I guess, but I plan on trying to stay cling to my diet for as long as I can. So I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks for watching. Peace. Bye.